Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The following program is sponsored by Max Out Savings Advisors. The views expressed during the broadcast are solely for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily express the views of KNTH, its management, Max Out Savings Advisors, or its sponsors. Max Out Savings Advisors and members of the Max Out Savings team may or may not hold securities mentioned during the show. Plan for your prosperity. Prepare for your retirement. Safeguard your savings. And nurture your investments. This is the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Now, here's your host from Max Out Savings Advisors, Ted Gioka.
Good morning, and welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings, investments, in your retirement here on our show. Our show is all about building up wealth, understanding the world today, and dealing with retirement and managing your retirement assets through retirement. And our motto and our philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. We talk about that because that's how you get to have enough money to retire, is you put away as much money as you can to your qualified plans, your 401k plans, your different types of plans, minimum of 10% plus a company match. And you just conservatively invest the money, and you build up wealth over the long term. That's going to be where you need to be. We're in a much more difficult world today, and we're going to be talking about some of that big changes today. A couple topics we're going to be talking about. I really think the world's going to be defined before the election and after the election. BE and AE. It's just because so many things are just kind of been freezing up and nothing's been happening in waiting for this election, and that's all going to change in basically 4 days. Yes, and so then you're going to see real changes happen in the world, and they're going to happen quickly. And so it's everything from dealing with wars to inflation to the economy. All across the board, big changes. And we're going to be discussing that. We're discussing where we think things are going to go, who we think is going to win for the election, in the changes that are going to take place. But we're dealing with inflation, and that's going to be the big thing going forward. I think one of the main things you have to concern yourself with in retirement is inflation. If you can control inflation, with low inflation, your retirement assets are going to last a lot longer than if you don't. Inflation is deadly to retirement, and retirement savings typically has to last 25 years. And what seems like a lot of money now in 25 years is not if inflation just marches through your standard of living. And so this is going to keep. We have to have people in power that are going to control inflation. We have to have Federal Reserves that quit printing money and debasing your dollars of savings to help out one political party after another. All of these things affect your standard of living. But it's painful now. Oh my gosh, the price of eggs has gone up another 25%. But if you're talking 5 years from now and eggs have doubled, that is devastating to your retirement. And so you have to understand that. So when planning for retirement and managing for retirement, one of the things you really want to take a look at is what can I do to lock in my standard of living? And by that, I mean you look at some of the easiest and most obvious one is rent versus owning. If you own your house, you lock in the cost of the house, and in Texas you lock in your taxes as well. Once you turn 65, that's a big deal, and so that's one. And if there's other ways, if you can lock it, if you get a car and figure the car is going to last 10 years, which most of these cars should last, then I think you're looking at a situation that you see you're controlling your costs for 10 years, and that's a big deal. And we're seeing the price of cars. So by keeping the car instead of I've got to trade in my car. My car's over 10 years old now. In fairness, it's a nice car, but I get a nice car and I use it and run the miles up on it and get my money's worth. And so you want to do that. So anywhere you can lock in an expense, lock in a price for a decade or more, it makes a huge difference. And so understand with retirement, think how you can control your expenses, but just think how can you control your expenses from whether, hey, if I buy a cheaper brand of cereal, I save 50 cents, but think, hey, how can I control my expenses 5 and 10 years in the future? That's where the big money is, and that's going to make a big difference. As I said, owning a home, you're locked it in. If you're in Texas, retiring in Texas, you're locked in your property taxes. They're frozen. The value of your home is frozen. Those type of things, and it doesn't make any difference in a year or 2 or 3, but 10, 20 years, it's a huge difference. And so understand inflation is devastating for retirees, not just long-term, but particularly much more severely, not just short-term, but much more severely long-term. So something to think about there when you're looking at the savings. Now, a couple things. We've got the election coming up, and we're looking at a number of different things happening. We have the elections coming up. We have the war in the Middle East. We have the war in Russia. We have interest rates going up. We have inflation. We have a very unsettled world, and so what we've been saying on the show is that, look, things are about to change. Things are going to change dramatically once the new president goes in. It's pretty much the most binary choice probably the American people have ever really faced. You've got a free market economy president under Donald Trump, and the other one you've got more of a managed economy, distribution of wealth, really a rollback to more of probably more likely a European, slow growth economy. And you probably, I believe, you will see the entrepreneurial class begin to move out of the United States. It's just too easy in the world today with Skype and telephones. It's just too easy to move to another country and do business and not have to deal with the regulations and the tax. Really, it's more the regulations and the issues in the United States. You can't hire people based on merit. You basically have to do diversity, equity, inclusion, which means you're going to have a poorer quality employee base than you will in another country. And so you're going to see this happen if Kamala wins. I have no doubt. It's just too easy. I'm back and forth on the phone to different countries, all week long, and it's too easy. We have clients that are working overseas, and it's just we have people that just work remotely in different countries for a month at a time, and it's just gotten too easy to move somewhere else nowadays. And so this is something I think is going to be a major situation we're going to be looking at. Now, a couple thoughts on that. When it comes to the election, what we've been doing. Look, I think Donald Trump is going to win. I was at the talk that Tucker Carlson did with Donald Trump Thursday night, and Charlie Kirk was there, RFK Jr. was there. Because really, we'll talk a little later on the show where we think if he gets in is going to be. We've looked at the polling. It looks like Donald Trump is going to win. My impression, talking to the Trump people, they think they're going to win, but it's like, yeah, we're going to win if they don't steal it. They are very, very concerned. The concern about stealing the election is a real deal. I've talked to too many people on this subject, and they're just, they're very confident that Trump is going to win, and the polls are moving his way. But the question is, can they steal the election? And so this is a real thing. If you had the gut feel on this, to me, is I think Trump's going to win by a bigger margin than people think. It just, in talking to people, they seem to be, people tell me they're hearing more people for Trump. The other impression is I get the feeling that a lot of people are afraid they're going to say they're for Trump because they're afraid of the blowback with their friends or their job. Nicole Shanahan, Donald Trump's running mate, made some comments like, I've lost a lot of friends over this, but I've gained a new family. RFK said the same thing. And a lot of people are just, they don't want to deal with this. And it's almost better to say, here you're for Kamala and nobody bothers you. And then when you go in the voting booth, you vote for Donald Trump. But if you look at the polling, it seems to be going Trump's way. It's come back some. I find it hard to believe that it's going to be this tight of a race. I mean, Trump really appears to be moving ahead. He's done a lot of work with the Hispanic, the African-American community. He appears to be shifting quite heavily to Trump, African-American males, Hispanics, white young men. Huge shift to Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk was saying young people are the most conservative, particularly young males, are the most conservative in over 50 years is what they're finding. He said, look, we're having trouble when we go to these colleges. Before we used to, they give us a little room. They have to have guards all over the place. And now they're having trouble finding a room big enough for the people that want to attend, and which is very exciting. And so it really appears to be that I think we're going to see Donald Trump is going to prevail next Tuesday, by a bigger margin than people think. I just don't think this is going to be this close. I mean, I think people have to make a decision, and I talked to some people on it. And by the way, one of the things in talking to people, if you want to convert a Democrat, the best way to do it, I found, is you talk about the coalition around Trump. I mean, that's what people seem to most open-minded to, is you point out that he's got J.D. Vance, he's got Laura Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Vivek, he's got RFK Jr., he's got Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, the list just, Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, the list just goes on and on of people of all types of persuasions, that he's put together the best coalition since John F. Kennedy Jr. back in 1960. And so that appears to be, the thing that's best in kind of convincing people. And look, at the end of the time, you got to say, look, you got to vote for who you think's best for you in the end. But again, we think it's going to be Donald Trump. And I think some changes are coming. And so we're going to talk about that after this quick break right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka is taking your calls now at 713-339-1070. Ted Gioka will return after these messages.
I'm Sam Malone, president of 512 New Media. We're Houston's leading marketing and content creation firm for many reasons. Our assets are exceptional, from video production to web design, strategy, and the ability to say no. Saying no is integral in launching a successful, profitable campaign. For example, take a look at Memorial Day. It's a federal holiday set aside to honor and mourn those in our U.S. military who died while serving our country. I'll say it again, for those who died while serving our country. So how does having a sale work in unison with the reason for the day off? Look, we know people will be at the beach and barbecuing and having parties. We would probably say no to launching a Memorial Day sale. So is there another way to commemorate the day while marketing your brand? Absolutely. And from our experience, the same holds true with Easter Day sales and MLK Day sales and Christmas Day sales. That's why we're different. No cookie cutter, follow the crowd, template marketing. Let's talk. We're 512 New Media. 512 New Media. With better marketing comes better value, creating better results.
This is Ted Gioka, host of the Max Out Savings Show, one of Houston's most popular financial radio shows, celebrating over a decade on the air in Houston, Texas. With stocks at record high valuations and interest rates near record lows, you need to have your guard up. You need to have a plan to manage risk to your retirement. Do you? At Max Out Savings Advisors, we have a risk-based value investing approach to your retirement. If you would like some help managing your retirement, go to maxoutsavings.com to set up an appointment. That's maxoutsavings.com.
Once again, here's your host for the Max Out Savings Show, Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. We're talking savings, investments, and your retirement here. We're working remotely today. The phone, we had a computer issue, and so it's a little not quite the best audio, but I think we got a lot to talk about today. As we talked about, listen to the Tucker Carlson's program interviewing Donald Trump Thursday night, and it was RFK was, you know, they had a number of people. RFK spoke. Again, one of the things that surprised me about RFK, I think Donald Trump's decision to add RFK and bringing him onto the ticket was really the game changer in the election. RFK, you know, he called up. He spoke to RFK the day he was shot. 3 and a half hours after he was shot, he was on the phone with RFK Jr. He met him the next day for 2.5 hours in Milwaukee. And it was like, once that happened, you know, they were likely talking ahead of time, you know, going back and forth. But once that shooting happened of President Trump, he acted decisively and he acted quickly. He said, fight, fight, fight. He got on the phone. Like I said, 3 hours later is extraordinary. And the next day, he's like, look, let's meet tomorrow. He flies in and meets with him for 2.5 hours. A couple things I think that surprised everybody. RFK it's very popular. You know, at these events, people love RFK. You know, the cheers aren't quite to what they are with Donald Trump. They're pretty darn close. And I think that's probably a surprise to everybody involved. You know, if you'd asked me, it was a completely different campaign. But he's really beloved by the Trump people, and he's not in. He didn't just endorse Donald Trump, and he's doing a few speaking engagements, and like Beyonce or something. He's a co-chair of the president's transition team. Now, it's very important because he's going to be placing people into the position, helping place people into these positions. And what Donald Trump has said is that, look, he's going to be working with on health care, on food, on those types of things in the country. He says, look, I'm not letting, he repeated it a couple of, he's not touching the oil and gas, because there's a difference there. But he is doing that. You know, RFK at the event, he said, I've wanted to see, he laid out the case, and it was this. I mean, I've followed this stuff for years. I got to say, this was an eye-opening event for me, and just I was like, wow. And I pretty much thought I knew everything, but RFK went through a thing where he said, you know, 6% when he was growing up of the people were obese. It's like 60%. In Japan, it's 30%. And 77% of our young people cannot qualify for the military due to health reasons. 77%. And he made a case that, you know, he said autism virtually was unheard of when he was growing up, and now 1 in 34 people in the U.S. and 1 in 24 people in California, and with boys that number's even bigger. It's mostly boys. These are just disastrous numbers. Asthma, he said one of his cousins had asthma. He said virtually no one was sick when he was growing up. He said one of his cousins had asthma. The doctor said, look, we're probably not going to find a cure for it because it's not, you know, not many people have it. It's not that big of a deal. But he said now 1 in 8 black children have asthma. It's like nothing to see here. It just goes on and on and on. And so what Donald Trump has asked him to do is he wants to end chronic disease in the United States in 2 years. And he said, well, he says, after 2 years, I want to see a report of what you've accomplished. And he went on to talk about the drug industry. And he said, a lot of this, the problem we're running into is it's all science if the drug companies can make money, but if it's going to cause the drug companies not to make money, then that science is kind of pushed aside. And very clearly, we have an issue with healthcare in the United States. He said Italy spends 1/6 of 1/6 we do on healthcare, and they live 7 years longer. I have to tell you, I won't even eat American pasta. I do strictly Italian pasta, and one of the reasons why is I know people that can't eat, that have different types of health issues. They cannot eat different pastas, but they can eat the Italian pasta or the Italian bread because of the wheats are different. And I don't know what the issue is, but there's clearly some issues here. And so this is going to affect the drug companies. And what we're dealing with in the United States is our total debt to GDP, deficit to GDP, this year is going to be at 8%. That includes state, local, and federal government. We can't keep going on and spending this money. So we're going to hit a wall. These interest rates have been rising, we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. Federal Reserve cut interest rates. The 10-year bond was at 3.6%. It's at 4.37%. It's been going up since the Fed cut rates about 6 weeks ago. It should have been going down. Instead, it's going up. And so we can't keep, we're going to have to do something to change the trajectory of the United States. We're going to have to look at the drug companies. We're going to have to look at the food companies. How can we cut healthcare costs? The idea we're paying $1,000 a month to drug companies for millions of people to get on Ozempic. Why aren't we getting any economies of scale? But what I want you to understand is that RFK is going to make change. They're going to look at this stuff. He said 6-year-old kids are getting Ozempic. 6-year-old kids are now getting Ozempic. That means you're paying $1,000 a month in perpetuity for this thing. There are better ways to handle situations. There are cheaper ways to do it, and we have to look at what is causing the problem that so many people have different types of chronic diseases in the United States, be it diabetes, inflammation issues, all types of things. There's something going on that's not being looked at, and we can save money if we can solve these problems. But the important thing to understand is RFK is going to do that. RFK said, when I started doing this, people told me, Bobby, this is going to be bad. Bobby, this is going to be bad for your career. You don't want to do this. He kept going. He said, I believe in this. He kept going. And he said he would pray. For 19 years, he prayed every day for 30 minutes. God gave him the help to do this stuff. When he did that, he got the loudest standing ovation from the crowd. And he said, and then God brought Donald Trump to me, and the crowd went wild. In a couple things, as I said, RFK is very popular. It's not like Donald Trump brought off RFK in there, and he's kind of a pain, and he's really not helping. RFK is helping this guy out. RFK is going to make a difference with Donald Trump. RFK has an agenda that I'm suspecting Donald Trump's kids really like, and RFK is bringing a way to cut costs in the United States like Elon Musk is, and RFK Jr. is very popular with the Trump base, surprisingly so. So he's going to be doing this. The idea that he's going to get in there and Trump's going to get in there, he's just going to be shown it aside as business. That's not going to happen. Elon Musk is coming in with his government efficiency committee. We've got to cut government spending. And so these things are all coming into play. But the reason I'm talking about RFK is I want you to understand, look, the drug stocks probably aren't the best place to be for investments for the next 4 or 5, next at least 2 or 3 years. But same with the food companies. The food companies will likely adapt pretty quickly but these are issues that come up. And by the way, I've looked into some of this stuff myself. I'm not completely convincing it's the obvious answer. I mean, it was, the Romans had the problem with lead. They didn't ever really figure it out. And there's some type of things that are causing these problems, and I'm not sure it's the most obvious thing. But if you start looking, if you start applying the science across the board evenly versus, applying the science where it makes money for drug companies and ignoring the science where there's not any money involved. I mean, if it was me, I would take a lot of these off-patent drugs that nobody wants to look at, and that the government should fund the research on some areas where they can maybe help and be applied cheaply. That's what they're going to do in this stuff. There's going to be a change in healthcare. Same thing. The other one's going to be military spending. Look, we are spending enormous amounts of money on our military spending. If you look at Donald Trump, if you look at Elon Musk, Elon sits there on Boca Chica down off of Potter Island, builds this rocket that can go for Mars at probably I said 1/6 to a friend of mine. He said it was probably less than that, the cost of what NASA, Boeing, and the other people have done. And his stuff is working better. It's the same thing. The Chinese are building stuff at a third the cost of what we're building the same products for, because we're making things overly complicated. We're building by committee. They have budgets, and so they're building things that are simpler, more battle hardened, and a lot cheaper. And that is going to have to be looking at that type of stuff as well. We cannot afford to be, every year we have $35 trillion worth of debt. We're blown to $100 trillion, $1 trillion every 100 days. There is no way this is going to continue to happen. Right now, the interest rates are going up. They're going more, and there's going to be a crisis once Donald Trump gets in. The question is it right afterwards? Is it 6 months later? That's the thing you must understand that's going to happen. But these are positives because we can start getting government under control again. We're up to Tucker went on, and he goes. He said, I think it's 7 or the 8 top wealthiest counties in the United States of America are in Washington, D.C., and they produce nothing. I could see, in Dallas, actually one of them, I think it's Houston with the medical center, but Westview, or Hollywood, or someplace where New York City financial. Washington, D.C. does nothing but cost us money and problems, and yet the wealthiest, 70 to 80% of the wealthiest counties, they're all right there. These people are making a fortune off of the American people, and that's about to change. That's why they've attacked Donald Trump so hard. But he's going to win, and there's going to be more changes coming. Now, we're going to talk some more about that. Again, what's going to happen after the election? Because remember, this is BE and AE, before the election, after the election. It's going to be a different world either way. I think we're assuming Trump's going to win, so we're going to go over some of the ideas he has. We'll be right back after this quick break right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
If you've got savings and investment questions, Ted Gioka has answers. Call the Max Out Savings Show now at 713-339-1070. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400, or visit maxoutsavings.com.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Staying Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement. This is Ted Gioka, host of the Max Out Savings Show, one of Houston's most popular financial radio shows, celebrating over a decade on the air in Houston, Texas. With stocks at record high valuations and interest rates near record lows, you need to have your guard up. You need to have a plan to manage risk to your retirement. Do you? At Max Out Savings Advisors, we have a risk-based value investing approach to your retirement. If you would like some help managing your retirement, go to maxoutsavings.com to set up an appointment. That's maxoutsavings.com.
And now, more of the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings investments in your retirement. We're talking, look, as we talked about, it's BEAE, before the election, after the election. Before the election, wars are being fought a certain way. Israel bombs Iran on Friday because they don't want anybody, they don't want to upset the stock market, so they got the weekend to deal with it. It's just one ridiculous, nobody, all the economic numbers we're dealing with are coming out. They're all positive for the economy, and then the next month they come out and they cut the number back and say, well, we were wrong. We had to revise it down lower. The price of oil is probably, and gasoline is probably ahead of the election. And so Valerie, are we on? I just heard some noise. Valerie, we're good.
Frank.
Oh, okay. Oh, hello. Well, welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. You had a question? Okay. Hello? Hello? Yes, hi. Welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. You had a question?
Yeah, I do. Actually, two questions. One is, will we lose the reserve currency status? And if we do, how quickly will things disintegrate?
That's a good question. I think those things, if you look at them with the reserve, they tend to take time. And so it's be over a multi-year process. Now, a couple things. If something were to happen in the United States, like an EMP attack or something like that, where it takes down the grid or something and it makes the U.S. look weaker than it is, it could happen very quickly. The one danger we have right now is, well, the most obvious is, and likely is, that after the election, as we said, we're running 8% of GDP budget, $35 trillion in debt, is that people are going to go, oh my God, Donald Trump's going to get in there, cut taxes, and start spending like crazy, and interest rates start going up. They're already going up ahead of time of the election, and which they went up 30. This thing happened in England. In 30 days before the election there, the interest rates went, and in 30 days, once Liz Truss was prime minister, interest rates within about 65 days went up from 2.2% to like 4.2% or 2.5%, something like that. She ultimately had to resign, and the pound fell 12% at the time. And so that's the danger we have right now that I see. Is something is, and when that happens, the Trump administration has to be ready with a plan to cut expenses, reorder the government, maybe raise some taxes on a few people, but come up with a plan for growth, but cutting spending as well. That's I think the most likely way. It's very similar to what happened to Liz Truss in England in 2022. She was the shortest reigning prime minister at 49 days.
Yeah, okay.
Does that answer that?
Yes, it does. One other thing, though, I see a lot of movement towards gold. You've got the BRICS that seem to be buying up gold. and that would indicate to me that they tend to go to a gold standard, which may actually accelerate that whole movement away from the U.S. being reserve currency.
The gold is definitely doing it. After the Russia war, as the United States government froze the Russian assets at the Federal Reserve, and as we warned at the time, it was going to force countries to move their assets out of the United States. Gold is one way they're doing it. In addition, you can move gold. You can put it on a transport plane and move billions of dollars worth of gold, and there's no tracing it. So gold is going to continue to do well, as silver will as well. I'm surprised they haven't had a bigger correction. They're very strong in here. But I think long-term they continue to move higher. If Donald Trump gets in there and basically wants to be more of a peacetime person and talks to these other people and say, hey, why can't we all sort of get along? I think there's going to be some rough patches. I think we can stabilize the dollar and get away from these economic sanctions, particularly versus the dollar and the Federal Reserve, because they don't work. I mean, if they did, honestly, if I was a third world country and was a dictator, the first thing I'd do is ask for sanctions by the United States, and I'd be in power forever.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, good question. So that's what I think is going to happen. Because if you look at under Ronald Reagan, the debt level was 30%. So Ronald Reagan came in, and he said, look, I'm cutting taxes, and we're going to grow the economy. The taxes were much higher, by the way. But the economy, the United States economy, had a 30% debt-to-equity ratio, and the deficit was 2%. Right now, we're at 120% debt to total GDP, and the annual deficit is 8% total. Local, federal, and state governments, 8% deficit. So it's much more difficult for him to do that. And as I said, these interest rates are going up. The long rate, the 10-year hit another high over the last couple of months, Friday. So it looks like Trump's going to win. So they're going to pressure Trump. And so Trump has to act very quickly. He's going to have to get a very strong Secretary of Treasury. Because this is where the weakness is in the whole. You've got to have someone that can convince the world that, look, we're going to change things in the United States. So expect that to happen as higher rates go up. That's not good for the stock market. The stock market's been going straight up for the last year. You had to ask me, all things being equal, Ted, what's the market going to do? I said, hey, it's going to boom because Donald Trump's coming in. But then if you look, you go, wait a minute, this stock market has been going up on lower rates. The fact that rates are going to be falling has been going up for the last 12 months, without really any material correction. So it's kind of already priced in, and rates, instead of going down, appear to be going up now. So this is, I think you have to prepare. Again, it's after election, AE. I think the chances of peace in the Ukraine-Russia war are much, much better under Trump. Because the Biden administration dug themselves a massive hole in the Ukraine. They can't admit they were wrong, and they just want more wars. Donald Trump, Thursday night in Glendale, he said it. He's sitting there, he goes, look, he said it was late, and the thing went on for 4 hours. And he said, look, now he didn't talk for 4 hours. He said, if you look at Russia and China, the last thing you want these people to do is to be allies. And Russia needs the land, they need the resources. China needs Russia's land and resources. If Russia gets in there, they're going to be right on the European. He didn't say right on the European border, but they will be. But it was stupid for the United States policy to drive Russia into the hands of China. And so this policy has to change. It's going to change after the election. Same thing with the war with Iran. I mean, if you look at Donald Trump, he got peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. I didn't think that was possible, and he did it. So there you could see more changes there. But we're going to have to hit this rough patch where these interest rates go up. And keep in mind, a lot of these people on Wall Street, particularly the Federal Reserve, and these globalists around the world hate Donald Trump. They hate all his people, and they're going to try to run up interest rates to make him look bad and try to wreck his agenda. So he has to come back with a plan. And so that's going to be the interesting thing. As we said at the beginning of the show, looking at the polls, it looks like Donald Trump is going to win. Talking to Charlie Kirk, I didn't talk to Charlie Kirk, but talking to some of his people out there, what they were telling me that they figured they needed about 100,000 new people signed up to register to vote Republicans in order to counter what happened the last time with the Maricopa County issues and the shenanigans at the polls. There were over 120,000, well over 120,000 people now they've done. So they feel very confident. The Trump people I talked to across the board, talk to people in the campaign, they're like, we're going to win. And then it's like we're going to win, but the problem is, can we overcome the cheating? I mean, pretty much they think they've got this thing in the bag right now, but they're very concerned about the cheating. They're not sure how much they can cheat, and it's a genuine fear. It's not conspiracy theory out of Appalachia, but it's a real concern. And so this is going to be the thing we have to watch. But we're expecting a substantial Trump win. I think more so than people believe. Personally, I think it's going to be a big win. Okay, thank you. Larry, welcome to the Max Out Savings Show.
Well, hi, Ted. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
So I have a question for you. Are you noticing more large companies ditching their DEI programs?
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing to be gained by it. I mean, people are upset. Tucker Carlson, the thing, was advertising some nicotine patch things. I think he used nicotine, it's like smokeless tobacco, but it's nicotine product. And he said because the other company, Zen, he might be involved in this one. He might be the own part of it. The Zen company was donating to Kamala's group. I mean, there's nothing to be gained with these people, because in the past, it's like a lot of actors and actresses are all going with Kamala. Candidly, it's because they're afraid if they endorse Kamala, nothing's going to happen to their career. If they endorse Trump, their career could be ruined. Well, the problem companies have right now, if they come up with DEI, Trump people who are now close to the majority in the country, they're solid 35% or more hardcore. They will boycott them. And so that's changing across the board. And so I think these policies are going away. And it's hurting the companies because they're not getting the best candidates. And there's a big enough pool of candidates of different colors and women out there now that honestly, you don't need to do DEI. You've got good people you can pick. And so I think this is going away.
That's good news. Okay, so are you seeing any big names that were hardcore DEI advocates who are ditching it?
Well, people like, I think Brown and Foreman, Jack Daniels, John Deere. I mean, it's been a bunch of them. They're all kind of scrambling all over the place right now because they don't want to be boycotted. Look, what's happened here over the last 10 years or so is the Democrats have been the one boycotting and harassing with the media these companies, and they're all afraid of them. But what's happened now is the public has shifted over to Trump, and they're like, look, we're fed up with this stuff. And so there's nothing to be gained by doing it. There's pain by doing it. Before, there was no pain by them doing it. People were happy they'd leave them alone. Now there's pain for doing it, and that's the difference. You're seeing a fundamental shift by the American public is happening right before our eyes.
That is true. I've noticed that.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Thank you. Bye.
So, it does really appear to be a shift, a movement to Trump. Again, this coalition is very exciting. We talked earlier in the show about RFK because that's going to have a huge effect on the drug industry. It's going to have a huge effect on the food industry.
In about 5 minutes, I'm going to have the closet empty for you so you can take a look.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. We're doing some work here. And so, what was I saying? RFK, they're going to go the drug industry, the food industry, the media business. One of the biggest applause lines RFK had is the drug companies need to get out of advertising on the TV. which was a surprise. But if you think about that, because what those advertisements are is they're basically payoffs to the networks not to run on 60 Minutes or these other shows, 2020 or whatever, studies about how drugs are some drug is malfunctioning out there and hurting people, because they won't do it because they're making so much money off of the drug companies. So even media, drugs, food, military, these are all going to be under pressure. They're going to be under pressure to change things and to sit there and cut costs, improve their products for the American people. And so this is a fundamental change. These people have had a free ride for 25 years. And so understand, Wall Street's not in any big favor. They've been carrying to the Democrats for a long time, and they're starting to shift over. If you notice, the New York Times ran a story that Jamie Dimon is actually behind the scenes privately is for Kamala Trump. Well, the other day, he basically was swearing and talking about, I'm sick of this, blank when it comes to bank regulations. That doesn't sound like a big Kamala supporter to me, and it's a pretty smooth way to sit there and let everybody know that he's not completely in Kamala's camp like they were trying to present. And so this is, again, same with Wall Street. What we want in this country, we want things to function better. We want the cost to go down. We want inflation to go down. We want the country to become more efficient. We're tired of the wars. All of these things are reordering of the United States economy, and it's going to play through over time. The big tech companies, they account for enormous percentage of GDP. I think that the top 7 companies are bigger than most of the market capitalizations of most of the countries in the world. So total stock markets. Well, if you look at Google, if you look at Facebook, if you look at Apple, they've been completely in the tank for the Democrats. They've been sabotaging the Republicans at every turn, and it's coming to an end. And they've been making fortunes off of Microsoft, off your personal data, selling it to people. And what happens when Elon Musk comes up with X or Tesla, a privacy phone or privacy browser, that they can't do that anymore? That's going to hurt their profitability. So it's going to be a different group out there is going to make money in this time. And I think it's going to be commodities. I think the electrification of cars, the AI uses huge amounts of electricity. Those types of things, the growth of the world is completely changing, and that's where I think we're going to see it go. And that's what you want to move your retirement to. As we talked about earlier on the show, if you look at inflation, when you're a retiree, the danger isn't the cost of your eggs, 25%. The danger is in 5 years, the cost of your eggs doubles or triple. That puts you in a bad situation. So right now, in this inflationary world, you should be looking every way. How can I lock in my expenses for 5 years, for 10 years, for 3 years? Someone gives you a deal, but your price won't change for 4 years. You sign up for it. You buy a house. Your note is locked in, your interest is locked in, and your valuation is frozen. So if you're over 65, those are the ways you beat inflation. And so we're going to talk some more about that. But we're writing up a lot about this in the Max Out Savings Report. We're putting a new one out right after the election, talking about what we're seeing happening. It's a completely free report. It's called the Max Out Savings Report. We try to bring things. We're not hearing a lot of what we're talking about right now from other people. We're bringing these to you so you can understand the world ahead of everybody else. It's called the Max Out Savings Report. So if you want a free copy, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. You can also request an appointment there. If you'd like to talk to us about managing your retirement assets, that's our main job, actually, at Max Out Savings Advisors here in Houston, Texas, is we manage retirement money, trust money, long-term money, using our value investing approach to the stock and bond markets. We typically hold the assets, in most cases, at Charles Schwab, and then we manage it as your advisor. We have a fiduciary duty to make sure that you're taken care of, and we try to do that. So if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings with an S.com, and request a free newsletter, or the appointment if you'd like. I'd be happy to sit down with you and see if we could help you out. So to kind of recap what we talked about on the show today, and I appreciate everybody's patience. We had some computer issues where they're redoing some stuff in the house, and Wi-Fi went down and everything else. But our expectation, our base case is President Trump's going to win. And if you had asked me, hey, this is where do you think I think Trump's going to win by a bigger margin than expected. It's tough whether we're going to get the Senate. I lean toward we're going to get the Senate, which will allow him to get a lot of his stuff done. I think you're looking at changes. This is not Donald Trump, I'm going to cut your taxes, Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump, I'm going to reorder the United States of America. I'm going to reduce your taxes, combat inflation, deal with food issues, deal with health issues, clean the country up, reduce expenses, and restructure the United States. He's put together the best coalition since John F. Kennedy Jr. in 1960. It's very exciting. But coming up to that, I believe the situation is very similar to Liz Truss in 2022. Interest rates went from 2.25% to about 4.2% within 60, 70 days as she came in, because she started cutting taxes and try to grow the economy, and the pound plunged, 12, 13% in that time frame. I think you could be looking at the same thing in the United States. And so this is something we want to watch for. I think you do want to have somewhat of a defensive plan in place. The Trump win is very bullish for the market, but understand a lot of it is already priced in. So anyway, if you need some help, I'll go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. At least sign up for the free newsletter. If you need some help with your retirement management, that's what we do at Max Out Savings Advisors. I'd like to help you out. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and remember our motto and philosophy, which is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. Thank you. Good night. Have a good day.
This has been the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Join us next Saturday at 10 a.m. for the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka on AM 1070. The Answer.